Admiral Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge of the USC Indomitable, staring at the view screen. Stars stretched across the darkness like scattered diamonds. Her ship cut through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible just 50 years ago. Behind her, the fleet of 20 colony ships followed in perfect formation. Each one carried 10,000 humans ready to start a new life on Kepler 442b. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple vessels ahead," said Lieutenant Jaewon at the sensor station. "They're blocking our path." Kim walked closer to the screen. 12 ships appeared, each one different from the others. Strange shapes that didn't match any human design. Some looked like crystals. Others seemed to be made of living metal. They all had one thing in common. They were all pointing weapons at her fleet. "We're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Minseo. "Audio only." "Put it through," Kim ordered. A voice came through the speakers. It sounded strange, like someone speaking through water. "Human vessels, you have entered restricted space. This territory belongs to the Galactic Council. You must stop immediately and submit to our authority." Kim picked up the microphone. "This is Admiral Ji-won Kim of the United Space Command. We have no interest in your council. We're going to Kepler 442b. It's an empty planet. Nobody lives there." "We checked," the alien voice responded quickly. "All space in this sector is under council jurisdiction. No species may colonize any world without council approval. You must turn back and come to Terminus 7 station. There you will apply for membership. Then you will wait for the council to decide if humans are acceptable." Kim looked at Dr. Minho Park, who stood near the science station. He was the chief xenobiologist on this mission. He shook his head slowly. "Admiral, maybe we should listen. We don't know anything about these people. There could be thousands of species in this council." "Doctor, with respect, I don't care," Kim said. She turned back to the microphone. "We're not turning back. We're not asking for permission. That planet is empty and we're going to live there. Move your ships." Silence followed. Then the alien spoke again, and this time the voice sounded shocked. "You refuse? No species has ever refused the council. This is unprecedented. You must comply." "No," Kim said simply. "Lieutenant Jaewon, take us forward." Standard speed. The Indomitable moved forward. The colony ships followed. The alien vessels didn't move at first. They just sat there as if they couldn't believe what was happening. "Admiral, they're charging weapons," Jaewon called out. "All 12 ships. Shields up," Kim ordered. "But don't fire unless they do." 3 of the alien ships fired. Bright beams of energy shot across space. They hit the Indomitable's shields and scattered harmlessly. Kim watched the energy readings. "Their weapons are weak. Designed for ships with much thinner armor. Should we return fire?" asked Weapons Officer Sunmi. Kim thought for a moment. "Send 3 fighters. Captain Choi's squadron. Tell her to disable those 3 ships. Don't destroy them. Just make sure they can't follow us." "Yes, Admiral." Captain Hieri Choi was already in her fighter when the order came through. She had been waiting for this. She and her 2 wingmen launched from the Indomitable's bay. Their fighters were small and fast. They accelerated toward the alien ships. The alien vessels tried to track them, but they were too slow. Choi's fighter came up behind the first ship. She fired a single missile. It was a kinetic weapon, just a very dense piece of metal moving very fast. It punched through the alien ship's engine section. The ship went dark and started drifting. Her wingmen took out the other 2 ships in the same way. The whole fight lasted 17 seconds. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Dr. Park stared at the view screen. "That was too easy. Something's wrong here." "What do you mean?" Kim asked. "These aliens have faster-than-light travel. They have energy weapons. But their defenses are hundreds of years behind their offensive technology." "It doesn't make sense," Kim nodded slowly. "Unless they've never needed good defenses." "How long do you think this council has been in charge?" "Centuries at least. Maybe longer." Park pulled up some data on his screen. "Look at their formation. It's perfect for intimidation but terrible for actual combat. They're used to people surrendering." The remaining 9 alien ships were moving away now. They kept their distance but followed the human fleet. Kim knew they were watching, reporting everything back to their superiors. "Open a channel," Kim said. "All frequencies." "Channel open, Admiral." Kim spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Ji-won Kim of Earth. I'm sending this message to whoever is in charge of the Galactic Council. Humanity does not recognize your authority over empty space. We will colonize Kepler 442b. We will establish 50 more colonies in this region over the next 5 years. If you have a problem with that, you're welcome to try and stop us. But I suggest you don't. We don't want war. We just want to be left alone. Stay out of our way and we'll stay out of yours." She cut the transmission. The bridge was silent. Dr. Park looked worried. "Admiral, you just declared independence from a government we know nothing about. They might have millions of ships." "Maybe," Kim said. "But did you see how surprised they were when we said no? Nobody has ever said no to them before. That tells me everything I need to know. They rule through intimidation, not actual strength. That's a big assumption. It's a calculated risk. Besides, it's too late to change course now." Kim turned to her crew. "Resume course to Kepler 442b, full speed." The Indomitable and its fleet continued forward. Behind them, the alien ships followed at a distance. They didn't try to stop the humans again. They just watched and transmitted everything back to their council. On the bridge, Lieutenant Jawan spoke up. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the alien ships. They're not directed at us. They're talking to each other. Can we understand them?" "The computer is working on it. Wait." "Got something?" "These are automated translations, so they might not be perfect." He listened through his earpiece. "They're scared. They keep saying unprecedented and violation of all protocols. One of them is asking what they should do. Another is saying they need to report to someone called Counselor Threxnar immediately." Kim smiled. "Good, let them be scared. Let them report. Maybe their council will think twice before bothering us again." But Dr. Park wasn't smiling. He knew that scared people often did dangerous things. And now humanity had just made an enemy of a government that ruled thousands of worlds. He hoped Admiral Kim was right about them being weak. Because if she was wrong, Earth had just started a war it might not be able to win. Captain Choi returned to the Indomitable. When she reached the bridge, she saluted. "Mission complete, Admiral. 3 ships disabled. No casualties on either side. Good work, Captain. What did you think of their ships?" Choi shrugged. "Old, slow. Their shields couldn't stop a simple kinetic round. If that's the best they have, we won't have any problems." "Don't get overconfident," Kim warned. "These might just be patrol ships. They probably have bigger vessels." "Maybe, but I doubt they're much better. Did you see how they formed up? They weren't ready for a real fight." Choi looked at the view screen where the alien ships still followed. "They're used to people being afraid of them." Kim nodded. That matched her own assessment. The Galactic Council ruled through fear and bureaucracy. They probably hadn't fought a real war in centuries. That gave humanity an advantage, but it also made the situation dangerous. Organizations like that didn't handle defiance well. The fleet reached Kepler 442b 3 days later. The planet was beautiful. Green continents and blue oceans very similar to Earth. The colony ships began their descent. Behind them, the alien ships watched but didn't interfere. They just kept transmitting reports. Kim knew that somewhere, in some alien council chamber, very important beings were having a very difficult conversation about what to do with humanity. She wondered how long it would take them to decide. And she wondered what humanity would do when they finally did. The Grand Council chamber on Terminus 7 station was the largest room Counselor Threxnar had ever seen. It had to be. 847 different species sent representatives here. The chamber was a massive sphere with platforms floating at different levels. Each platform held the delegation from one species. Some breathed oxygen, others needed methane or ammonia. Some didn't breathe at all. Right now, all of them were talking at once. The noise was incredible, even through the translation system. Threxnar had never seen the council so upset. In 300 years, there had never been an emergency session. Until today. High Chancellor Velmora stood at the center platform. She was old, even by her species standards. She had governed the council for 400 years. She raised one of her forearms. The gesture commanded attention. Slowly, the noise died down. "Members of the council," Velmora's voice echoed through the chamber. "We are here because a new species has violated every protocol of first contact. The species calls themselves humans. They come from a planet they call Earth. 3 days ago, they refused to acknowledge council authority. They attacked our patrol vessels. They established a colony on Kepler 442b without permission." A representative from the Korthi species spoke up. His voice was like grinding rocks. "Impossible. No species refuses the council. It has never happened." "It has happened now," Velmora said. "We have video evidence." The chamber's central display activated. It showed the encounter between the human fleet and the council patrol. Everyone watched as the human admiral refused to turn back. They watched as 3 alien ships fired their weapons. They watched as 3 small human fighters destroyed all 3 ships in less than 20 seconds. The chamber erupted again. This time the voices sounded different.
Not angry, scared. How is this possible?
Someone shouted. Those were military vessels with full shields. General Crichton stood on his platform. He was the supreme military commander of all council forces. I have analyzed the attack. The humans used kinetic weapons, simple mass accelerators, but the projectiles were moving at 0.8 light speed. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They can't handle that kind of kinetic impact. Why would anyone use kinetic weapons? Asked a Vrelian representative. Energy weapons are more efficient. Against our shields, yes, Crichton said. But kinetic weapons at those speeds are devastating. And the humans seem to have mastered the acceleration technology. Our weapons cannot match that velocity. Threxnar listened to all of this with growing worry. He had been the first to encounter the humans. He had tried to explain council law to them. They hadn't even listened. It was like talking to a wall. No, worse than a wall. The wall would have at least been polite. We must respond with force, General Crichton continued. Send a battle fleet. Show them that the council cannot be defied. And if they defeat our battle fleet? Velmora asked quietly. The general had no answer for that. That's when the doors opened. Everyone turned to look. A human walked into the chamber. He was followed by a human female carrying some kind of device. The security systems should have stopped them, but somehow they had just walked through. The male human wore a simple black suit. He looked around the chamber with interest as if he was visiting a museum. Hello, he said. My name is Deho Yoon. I'm Earth's ambassador. This is my colleague, Dr. Yunahan. I hope you don't mind us dropping in. Velmora stared at him. How did you get past security? We walked, Yoon said simply. Your security systems are very sophisticated, but they scan for weapons and explosives. We're not carrying any. We're just here to talk. That's not what I meant, Velmora said. The doors were locked. The corridors were sealed. Dr. Han held up her device. Your electronic locks are controlled by a central computer system. We accessed it. It was easier than we expected, honestly. The chamber was silent now. The implications were clear. If humans could walk through the council's most secure facility, what else could they do? General Crichton pointed at the humans. Arrest them immediately. I wouldn't do that, Yoon said calmly. We're here under diplomatic protection. Arresting us would be an act of war, and I don't think you want that. You dare threaten the council? Crichton's voice was outraged. No threat, Yoon said. Just facts. Let me explain our position. Earth will colonize 50 star systems in the region you call the Outer Rim. These are all uninhabited systems. No one lives there. No one is using them. We checked very carefully. We don't want to take anyone's home. Those systems are still under council jurisdiction, Velmora said, according to who? Yoon asked. Did any of you discover those systems? Did you survey them? Did you do anything with them at all? That is not how it works, Threxnar spoke up. The council governs all space. That is the law. It has been the law for 2,000 years. It's your law, Yoon said, not ours. We never agreed to it. You can't enforce rules on people who never accepted them. Everyone accepts them, Velmora said. Every species that achieves space travel comes to the council. They apply for membership. They accept our governance. That is how civilization works. Maybe that's how your civilization works, Yoon said. But humans don't ask permission to live their lives. We govern ourselves. We always have. We're not going to stop now. General Crichton stood again. Then we will stop you. The council has fleets that number in the millions. We have weapons that can destroy entire planets. You have seen nothing of our true power. Dr. Han spoke up for the first time. Actually, we have seen your power. We've been monitoring your communications for the past 6 months. We've mapped your military installations. We've analyzed your weapons technology. We've assessed your fleet capabilities. She held up her device. Would you like to know what we found? No one answered. But no one looked away either. Your technology is old, Han continued. Not bad, just old. You haven't had a real war in over 1,000 years. Your military exists mostly for show. Your weapons are designed to intimidate, not to fight. Your ships are built for long-term patrols, not combat. You have quantity, but not quality. This is an insult, Crichton said. Remove these humans immediately. It's not an insult, Yoon said. It's an observation. You've built an empire on the idea that everyone should cooperate. That's admirable, but it's made you soft. You don't know how to fight anymore because you haven't needed to. Everyone just does what you say. Until now, Vilmora said quietly. Until now, Yoon agreed. Look, we don't want war. War is expensive and pointless. But we won't be ruled by you. We won't ask your permission. We won't follow your laws. If you can accept that, we can coexist peacefully. If you can't, he shrugged. Well, Dr. Han has some calculations you might want to see. Han touched her device. Data appeared on the chamber's main display. It showed fleet positions, response times, and weapon capabilities. It showed human assessments of Council military strength, and it showed what would happen if the two sides went to war. The numbers were not good for the Council. These calculations must be wrong, Krixtal said. But he didn't sound confident. They're not, Han said. We could neutralize your entire military infrastructure in approximately 48 hours. We wouldn't need to destroy most of your ships, just disable them, cut off their communications and power. They'd be floating in space, helpless. You're bluffing, someone shouted from the upper platforms. Maybe, Yoon said. Do you want to find out? Vilmora looked around the chamber. She had been alive for 500 years. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had guided the Council through countless crises. But she had never faced anything like this. A species that simply refused to acknowledge her authority. A species that might actually be strong enough to back up that refusal. What do you want? She asked finally. To be left alone, Yoon said. We'll take our 50 systems. We'll build our colonies. We'll govern ourselves. You do the same with your territory. We stay out of each other's way. It's simple. And if we refuse, Yoon's expression didn't change. Then you'll learn why humans developed kinetic weapons instead of energy beams. Why we built our ships for combat instead of patrols. Why we spent 200 years fighting each other before we went to the stars. We know war, Chancellor. It's in our history. In our bones. We're very, very good at it, and we really hope we never have to prove that to you. He turned to leave. Dr. Han followed. They walked toward the door. No one tried to stop them. Wait, Vilmora called. This session will reconvene in 1 week. We will discuss your proposal. Yoon turned back and nodded. Thank you, Chancellor. That's all we ask. A fair discussion. After the humans left, the chamber exploded into arguments. Some wanted war. Some wanted negotiation. Some wanted to pretend the humans didn't exist and hope they went away. But Threxnar knew the truth. The galaxy had changed. For 2,000 years, the Council had been the only power that mattered. Now there was another power. And this one didn't care about their rules at all. The question was whether the Council could adapt to that reality, or whether they would cling to their old ways and force a war nobody wanted. Threxnar hoped they would choose wisely, but he wasn't sure they would. Governor Taejin Lee stood at the window of his office and looked out at New Seoul. 6 months ago, this had been an empty plain on an alien world. Now it was a city of 2 million people. Buildings rose into the sky. Parks filled with trees from Earth dotted the streets. Vehicles moved along roads that hadn't existed last year. It was incredible. The water processing plant is at full capacity, said his assistant, bringing him a report. The agricultural zones are producing above estimates. We're actually ahead of schedule on everything. Lee smiled. Good. How many more colony ships are scheduled to arrive? 3 more this month, each carrying 10,000 people. We'll be at 3 million by year's end. Lee looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, Council ships were watching. They had been watching for months. They never interfered. They never approached. They just watched and reported. It made him nervous. Any word from Earth about the Council? Ambassador Yoon is still in negotiations. The Council hasn't made any decisions yet. They're arguing among themselves. Good. The longer they argue, the more colonies we establish. Eventually, they'll have to accept reality. On the other side of the system, engineer Subin Kwan was working on a different kind of project. She stood on the surface of Kepler 442c, the second planet in the system. It was a frozen ball of ice. No atmosphere, no life. Completely worthless by most standards, but Kwan saw potential. She checked the readings on her tablet. The terraforming machines were working perfectly. Already the temperature had risen by 15 degrees. In another month, the ice would start melting. In 6 months, there would be liquid water. In a year, they could start introducing bacteria and plants. How's it looking? Asked her supervisor through the radio. Better than expected, Quan replied. We might finish this in 47 days instead of 60. 47 days? To terraform an entire planet? Well, to make it livable. Full terraforming will take longer, but people will be able to breathe the air in 47 days. That's what matters. She didn't mention that council terraforming took centuries. Human technology was just better, faster, more efficient. The council had been doing things the same way for so long they had forgotten there might be better methods. Meanwhile, Merchant Captain Hanasong was having a very interesting meeting. Her ship, the Morning Star, was docked at a neutral trading station. She sat across from a Vrelian merchant named Pixtalk. He looked nervous. Let me understand, Pixtalk said. You're selling these processing chips for 10 credits each? That's right, Song said. The council-approved equivalent costs 100 credits. And works half as fast, I know. That's why I'm here. Do you want them or not? Pixtalk looked around nervously. Trading with humans is not technically illegal, but the council discourages it. They say human technology hasn't been properly tested. Song shrugged. Their problem, not yours. Look, I've got 5 other merchants waiting to meet with me. If you don't want the chips, someone else will take them. I'll take them, Pixtalk said quickly. All of them. Can you get more? Probably. I'll be back next month. After Pixtalk left, Song's first officer came over. That's the 8th merchant today. Word is spreading fast. Good, Song said. The council can't compete with our prices. And our quality is better. They'll try to stop this eventually, but it's too late. The market has spoken. Back at New Seoul, Governor Lee received an unexpected visitor. A small shuttle requested permission to land. It wasn't human. It took Lee a moment to realize what was happening. It's a council ship. A small one. No weapons. Should we let it land? His security chief asked. Yes, but keep an eye on it. The shuttle landed in the spaceport. 3 aliens emerged. They were small, with blue skin and 4 arms. They looked around nervously at the human city. Lee met them at the landing pad. I'm Governor Taejin Lee. Welcome to New Seoul. The lead alien bowed. I am Representative Kixlan of the Beltorian people. We come to ask for your help. Lee hadn't expected that. Our help? With what? The council controls our world. They decide what we can produce, what we can trade, where we can travel. We have been members of the council for 600 years. In that time, our people have not advanced. We have not grown. The council keeps us in our place. And you want to leave the council? We want to be free, Kixlan said. Like you. We've heard about humanity, how you refused to submit, how you took what you wanted, how you govern yourselves. We want that too, Lee thought carefully. This was bigger than he could handle alone. I need to contact Earth. This is a diplomatic matter. But I can tell you this. If you want freedom, you have to take it. Nobody gives it to you. Will you support us if we try? That's not my decision. But I'll pass your request to my government. Where can we contact you? Kixlan gave him contact information. Then the 3 Beltorians returned to their shuttle and left. Lee immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth. This was important. Other species were starting to see humanity as an alternative to the Council. That could change everything. On Terminus 7, Council observer Rixlin was writing his weekly report. He had been assigned to monitor human activities. What he had discovered disturbed him greatly. He wrote carefully, knowing that the Council would read every word. The humans are expanding faster than predicted. They now occupy 12 star systems with established colonies. Another 15 systems have preliminary settlements. Their terraforming technology is centuries ahead of ours. What takes us 300 years, they accomplish in weeks. He paused, then continued. More concerning is their economic impact. Human merchants are trading throughout the sector. Their goods are cheaper and better than Council-approved alternatives. Several minor species are now buying primarily from humans. This is disrupting our economic control. He wrote more, but the next part was hardest. Most concerning of all. We have detected inquiries from 43 different species. They are asking about humanity's governance model. They are asking if they could establish relations with Earth directly, bypassing the Council. Some are asking for protection from the Council's regulations. Rixlin stopped writing. He looked at his report. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just establishing colonies. They were offering an alternative to the Council itself. And species were interested, very interested. He added one final paragraph. Recommendation: the Council must adapt or risk losing authority over member species. Humans are demonstrating that self-governance is possible and prosperous. The longer we delay in responding, the more species will question why they need the council at all. He sent the report and waited. He knew it would cause chaos. But it was the truth, and someone had to say it. Back on Kepler 442c, Engineer Kwan's terraforming was ahead of schedule. The ice was melting. The atmosphere was forming. She stood on a hill and watched as the first clouds formed in the alien sky. In a few weeks it would rain for the first time in billions of years. Beautiful, isn't it? Said one of her team members. It is, Kwan agreed, and it's just the beginning. We have 48 more planets on the list. All of them will look like this soon. Do you think the council will try to stop us? Kwan shrugged. They can try. But what are they going to do? We're not breaking any real laws. We're just using empty space. Space they weren't using anyway. They'll say it's their space. Let them say it. Words don't matter. Actions matter. And right now we're the ones taking action. They're just watching. Admiral Ji-won Kim received regular reports from all the colonies. She read them carefully in her office on the Indomitable. The ship was still in the Kepler system, providing security for the colonists. But there had been no threats. The council ships kept their distance. Her tactical officer entered. Admiral, we're detecting increased council military activity in the neighboring sectors. They're moving ships around. How many ships? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. It's hard to get an exact count. But they're definitely assembling a fleet. Kim nodded slowly. She had been expecting this. The council couldn't ignore humanity forever. Eventually they would have to respond. The question was whether they would choose diplomacy or force. Send a message to Earth, she said. Tell them the council is preparing something. We should be ready. Should we recall our ships? No, keep expanding. If the council wants to talk, they know where to find us. If they want to fight? She smiled coldly. Well, we've been preparing for that too. 6 months after first contact, humanity had transformed the outer rim. Empty systems now held thriving colonies. Barren planets were becoming garden worlds. Human merchants were changing the economic balance of the entire sector, and other species were starting to ask questions about the council's authority. The galaxy was changing, and the council was running out of time to decide how to respond. The Nexus border zone had never seen this many ships in one place. General Crickstall stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the display. 10,000 warships, every type of vessel the council had. Ships from 800 different species all working together. It was the largest military force assembled in over 1,000 years. This will show them, he said to his tactical officer. No one can stand against this much power. Sir, we're detecting human ships ahead, the officer reported. Counting. 200 vessels. 200? Crickstall laughed. They're outnumbered 50 to 1. They must be insane. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Kim studied the council fleet. She had expected them to bring a large force. But this was bigger than her estimates. Still, numbers weren't everything. They're trying to intimidate us, said Fleet Marshal Wan-Ho Bei. He stood next to Kim, looking worried. Admiral, we're seriously outnumbered. Maybe we should fall back and call for reinforcements. No, Kim said. If we fall back now, they'll think we're weak. They'll push harder. We need to make a statement here today. With 200 ships against 10,000, quality beats quantity, Marshal. You'll see. Tactical Officer Ji-hoon Shin was analyzing the council fleet composition. Admiral, I'm seeing a pattern. Their formation is designed for maximum visual impact, not for combat efficiency. Their ships are spread out to look bigger, but that means they can't support each other effectively. Good, Kim said. What else? Their power signatures show they're running energy weapons at maximum charge. That's draining their reactors. If they maintain that charge for more than an hour, they'll have to power down to cool off. So they're planning a quick fight, Kim said. They want us to surrender before they have to actually shoot. Looks that way, Admiral. A transmission came through. It was General Crickstall. Human vessels, this is your final warning. You are in violation of council space. You have 24 hours to cease all colony operations and withdraw from the outer rim. If you do not comply, we will remove you by force. Kim picked up the microphone. General Crickstall, this is Admiral Kim. We gave you a warning months ago. This is our space now. You have 1 hour to leave. If you don't, we'll make you leave. There was a long silence. Then Crickstall responded, his voice full of disbelief. You're outnumbered 50 to 1. You cannot possibly win. That's what you think, Kim said. 1 hour, General. Then we'll show you what human ships can do. She cut the transmission. Marshal Bay looked at her. Admiral, I hope you have a plan. 'Cause I don't see how we win this. Captain Choi, are your fighters ready? Kim asked. Captain Hieri Choi's voice came through the comm. Ready and waiting, Admiral. Just give the word. Good, all ships charge the mass accelerators. Maximum velocity. Synchronized firing pattern Alpha 7. Alpha 7? Bay looked confused. Admiral, that's the pattern for attacking fortified stations. Not ships. Exactly, Kim said. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. But kinetic projectiles at 0.8 light speed? Those shields might as well be tissue paper. The hour passed slowly. The Council fleet maintained its formation. They were clearly expecting the humans to either run or surrender. When the deadline expired and neither happened, confusion spread through their ranks. All ships fire, Kim ordered. 200 human warships fired simultaneously. Each ship launched dozens of projectiles. Small pieces of dense metal, accelerated to 80% of light speed. They streaked across the space between the two fleets. The Council ships detected the incoming projectiles. Their defensive systems activated. Energy shields flared bright. Point defense weapons tracked the targets, but nothing worked. The projectiles were too fast, too dense. They punched through shields like they weren't there. They tore through armor plating. They disabled engines and power cores. In the first minute, 300 Council ships went dark. In 5 minutes, the number reached 1,000. In 10 minutes, 2,000 ships were disabled or destroyed. On his flagship, General Krickstahl stared at the displays in horror. How is this possible? Our shields are state-of-the-art. The projectiles are too fast, his science officer reported. The shields are designed for energy weapons that travel at light speed. These kinetic weapons have mass and momentum. The shields can't deflect them. What about our point defense? Too slow. The projectiles are crossing the distance in seconds. Our targeting systems can't track them fast enough. Another wave of projectiles hit. 1,000 more ships were disabled. The Council fleet was in chaos. Ships were trying to scatter. Some were trying to return fire. But their energy weapons were ineffective against human shields. And they had no kinetic weapons of their own. All ships retreat, Krickstahl ordered. Fall back immediately. The Council fleet began to withdraw. But they were too slow. The human ships pressed forward. Another wave of fire. Another 1,000 ships disabled. In 17 minutes, the Council had lost 3,000 warships. The rest were fleeing. Should we pursue? Marshal Bay asked. No, Kim said. Captain Choi, take your fighters and follow them. Stay close but don't fire unless fired upon. I want them to know we could destroy them if we wanted to. But we're choosing not to. Understood, Admiral, Choi responded. Her fighter squadron launched and pursued the fleeing Council fleet. The human fighters were fast, much faster than Council ships. They caught up easily and flew alongside the retreating vessels. Close enough to fire, close enough to destroy. But they didn't shoot. They just flew there, demonstrating that they could end this fight whenever they wanted. The message was clear. The Council fleet wasn't retreating because they chose to. They were retreating because the humans were letting them. It was the ultimate humiliation. General Krickstahl watched the human fighters through his view screen. They were small, agile, deadly. One of them flew directly in front of his flagship. The pilot waggled the wings. It was almost playful.
Like a cat playing with a mouse, sir.
Incoming transmission from the humans, his communications officer said. Put it through, Krickstahl said quietly. Admiral Kim's voice came through the speakers. General Krickstahl, this war is over before it started. Go back to the Council. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that human territory is off limits. Tell them that if they come at us again, we won't be so merciful next time. Krickstahl wanted to argue, wanted to threaten, wanted to say something to save face, but he couldn't. The humans had destroyed 30% of his fleet in less than 20 minutes. They had done it almost casually, and now they were following him, demonstrating that they could finish the job any time they wanted. I understand, he said finally. Good. Now get out of our space. The transmission ended. The Council fleet continued its retreat. The human fighters followed for another hour, then broke off and returned to their ships. The message had been delivered. On the Indomitable, the crew was celebrating. They had just defeated the largest fleet in the galaxy with minimal losses. Only 2 human ships had taken damage and both were repairable. But Admiral Kim wasn't celebrating. She stood at the window, looking at the debris field where 3,000 council ships had been disabled. "This changes everything," she said quietly. "What do you mean, Admiral?" Bay asked. "The council ruled through intimidation. Everyone believed they were the strongest power in the galaxy. Today we proved that's not true. Every species in council space will hear about this. They'll start questioning whether they need the council at all. Is that a problem? It's a responsibility. We didn't just defeat a fleet today. We challenged an entire system of government. Now we have to figure out what comes next." Captain Choi returned to the Indomitable. She met with Kim privately. "Admiral, you should have seen their faces. They were terrified, not just of our weapons, of the fact that someone finally stood up to them. That's what concerns me," Kim said. "Fear makes people do desperate things. The council lost today, but they won't accept that loss easily. They'll either negotiate seriously, or they'll try something even more extreme. What could be more extreme than 10,000 ships? I don't know. That's what worries me." News of the battle spread quickly. By the next day, every species in council space knew what had happened. The council's mighty fleet had been humiliated by a force 50 times smaller. Some species were shocked. Some were scared. But many were asking a new question. If humans could defeat the council so easily, why were they still following council laws? On Terminus 7, General Krickstall submitted his resignation. He had led the greatest military force the council had ever assembled. And he had lost. Completely. Utterly. He couldn't continue as commander after such a defeat. But before leaving, he did something unexpected. He contacted Ambassador Yoon. "I want asylum," he said. "I want to work for humanity." "Why?" Yoon asked. "Because you were right. The council is weak. It's been weak for centuries. I spent my life serving them, believing they represented order and civilization. Today I learned they only represent stagnation. I want to help you build something better." Yoon considered this carefully. Having a former council general on their side could be valuable. Asylum granted. "Welcome to the free galaxy, General. Or should I say, former general." Krickstall smiled for the first time in days. "Call me Krix, I'm done with titles and hierarchy. I'm ready to learn what real freedom looks like." The battle at the Nexus border zone had ended. But the war for the future of President Yoonji Park sat in her office on Earth, looking at the screens displaying dozens of incoming diplomatic requests. 1 year had passed since first contact with the Galactic Council. Everything had changed. The question was whether Earth was ready for what came next. "Another 17 species have requested meetings this week," her aide said. "That brings the total to 43. They all want the same thing. Alliance agreements. Trade deals. Protection from the Council. 43 species," Park repeated. "Out of 800, that's only 5%. But they're the first. Others are watching to see what happens. If we make good deals with these 43, more will follow." Park nodded. "Send them to Ambassador Yoon. He'll handle the initial discussions, but make it clear, we're not building an empire. We're offering partnership, not dominance." "Understood, Madam President." Ambassador Daeho Yoon was overwhelmed. He had expected to negotiate with one government. Instead, he was dealing with dozens. Each species had different needs, different cultures, different goals. But they all had one thing in common. They were tired of the Council's control. His current meeting was with representatives from the Vraxi Confederation. They were one of the Council's founding members. If they left, it would send shockwaves through the entire galaxy. "We have been with the Council for 2,000 years, the Vraxi leader said. "But in that time, we have not grown. We have not changed. The Council keeps everything stable. Too stable. We want to advance. To explore. To take risks. The Council won't let us." "What exactly are you proposing?" Yoon asked. "A mutual defense pact with humanity. We withdraw from the Council. In return, you help us defend against any Council retaliation. We also want access to your technology and trade networks." Yoon thought carefully. "We can do a defense pact, but understand this, we won't fight offensive wars for you, only defensive. As for technology, we can share some, but not everything. Not until we know you better. Trade access is easier. We're already trading with dozens of species. You can join those networks." "That's acceptable," the Vraxi leader said. "When can we sign the agreement?" "Give me 2 weeks to draft it." I'll need approval from Earth, but I think we can make this work. After the Vraxi left, Dr. Minho Park entered Yoon's office. That was bold. The Vraxi are a major power. If they leave the Council, others will follow. That's the point, Yoon said. The Council is breaking apart because they refuse to adapt. They thought they could rule forever through intimidation and bureaucracy. But the galaxy doesn't work that way. People want freedom. They want opportunity. We're offering that. Are we ready to be the alternative to the Council? That's a huge responsibility. We're not trying to replace the Council, Yoon said. We're just offering a different model. Voluntary cooperation instead of forced compliance. If species want to join us, great. If they want to stay with the Council, that's fine too. We're not trying to control anyone. On Terminus 7, High Chancellor Velmora was facing the worst crisis of her 400-year reign. The Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives were shouting at each other. Some wanted to negotiate with humanity. Others wanted revenge for the military defeat. Many were simply panicking. Order, Velmora called out. We must have order. The noise gradually died down. We face a simple choice, Velmora continued. We can adapt to the new reality or we can fight it. Fighting has already failed. Our military force was defeated. Our economic sanctions are being bypassed by human trade networks. Our authority is being questioned by member species. If we continue on this path, the Council will collapse. Then what do you propose? Someone asked. We negotiate. Not from strength, but from reality. We offer humanity recognition. We accept their territory. We establish normal diplomatic relations. And we reform our own system to give member species more autonomy. The chamber erupted again. Many representatives hated this idea, but others saw the logic. The Council couldn't force humanity to submit, and trying would only drive more species away. Councillor Threxnar stood up. The Chancellor is right. I was at the first contact with humans. I saw their determination. They will not bend. They will not break. We can either accept them as equals, or we can watch our entire civilization crumble. Those are the only options. Slowly, support for negotiation grew, not because everyone agreed, but because no one had a better alternative. 2 weeks later, the Vraxi Confederation formally announced their withdrawal from the Galactic Council. The news spread like fire through the galaxy. If the Vraxi could leave, anyone could leave. Within days, 17 more species announced their intention to leave. They all signed agreements with humanity, the sovereignty. Alliance was born, a loose coalition based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation. President Park gave a speech that was broadcast across human space and translated into hundreds of languages. Today marks a new era in galactic history. For too long, civilization has been defined by hierarchy and control, one government deciding what everyone else can do. Today we offer a different path. Freedom, self-determination, cooperation by choice, not by force. The Sovereignty Alliance is open to any species that shares these values. We don't demand obedience. We don't require tribute. We simply ask that you govern yourself responsibly and respect others' right to do the same. The speech resonated across the galaxy. More species began questioning their membership in the Council. Within a month, over 200 species had either left the Council or were considering it. The Council tried to respond with economic sanctions. They declared that any species leaving the Council would be cut off from Council trade networks. But it didn't work. Human merchants filled the gap. Human trade networks were faster, cheaper, and more efficient than Council systems. The sanctions hurt the Council more than the defecting species. Velmora finally requested a private meeting with Ambassador Yoon. They met on neutral ground, a small station in unclaimed space. No guards, no recordings. Just two leaders trying to find a way forward. You're destroying everything we built, Velmora said. 2,000 years of peace and cooperation, gone in less than a year. With respect, Chancellor, we're not destroying anything, Yoon replied. We're just offering an alternative. If your system was truly serving people's needs, they wouldn't be leaving. Our system maintained stability. No wars, no conflicts. Everyone had a place, and no growth, no change. No opportunity for species to reach their potential. You created a safe galaxy, Chancellor, but you also created a stagnant one. People want more than safety. They want possibility. Velmora was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. What do you want from this meeting? I want peace. Real peace. Not the kind based on fear and control. The kind based on mutual interest. The Council doesn't have to disappear. It can continue serving the species that want to remain members, but it has to accept that it's not the only option anymore. You're asking me to accept the end of everything I've worked for. I'm asking you to accept change. The galaxy is bigger than any one government. There's room for multiple systems. The Council can survive this, but only if it adapts. Villamora looked at him with ancient eyes. You're very young to be so certain about everything. Maybe, but history proves I'm right. Every empire that tried to control everything eventually collapsed. The ones that survived were the ones that learned to share power. You can fight this and lose everything, or you can adapt and keep what matters most. And what matters most? Peace, cooperation, civilization. Those things don't require control. They just require respect. Villamora stood to leave. I will consider your words, but I make no promises. That's all I ask. Back on Earth, a young diplomat named Narration was working on something important. She had been studying galactic politics for years. Now she had an idea that might change everything. She presented it to President Park and Ambassador Yoon. The problem with the old council was that it tried to govern everyone the same way. But different species have different needs. What if we created a framework where species could choose their level of integration? Explain, Park said, a flexible system. Species can join for economic cooperation only, or add defense agreements, or coordinate scientific research. Whatever they want. But nothing is mandatory. Everything is voluntary. You join the parts that benefit you and skip the rest. Yoon nodded slowly. That could work. It gives everyone freedom while maintaining cooperation. No one feels controlled because they chose their level of involvement. Exactly, Shin said. I call it the Sovereignty Charter. Every species maintains complete control over their own affairs, but they can cooperate on specific issues by mutual agreement. Draft it, Park ordered. Make it detailed, make it fair, and make it something that even council species might want to join. Shin worked for 2 weeks straight. She consulted with legal experts, diplomats, and representatives from dozens of species. The result was a document that guaranteed self-determination while enabling cooperation. It wasn't perfect, but it was revolutionary. The Sovereignty Charter was published simultaneously across human space and transmitted to every species in the galaxy. The response was immediate. Species that had been undecided about leaving the